Hey guys, we're going to talk about another renewable energy resource today, the wind. Wind power is the second fastest growing energy resource next to the sun. In fact, wind power is a perpetual resource that is indirectly related to the sun. The sun does not heat Earth's surface evenly. We get pockets of warm air and cold air. This creates differences in atmospheric pressure, and the atmosphere is always trying to sort of balance itself out. It does that by creating winds, and winds blow from high to low pressure. We can capture the kinetic energy of these winds with a turbine, which is basically a massive blade that spins, converting the kinetic energy of the wind into mechanical energy, which then rotates a gearbox and a generator to produce electricity. Modern turbines are massive, exceeding 500 feet or 22 stories in height. Each blade can be as long as 7 stories. Anything bigger than that would be out of aviation compliance. However, going offshore, we have some wind turbines that exceed 853 feet. A collection of these turbines is what we call a farm. And wind farms off the coast are growing in popularity because of the sustained winds with the offshore environment. Some feel that aesthetically they're not pleasing, although we are starting to push them out of sight onto these massive floating platforms in the open sea. It turns out that America's energy needs, if we looked at terrestrial environments in the middle of our continent, would be met by the Great Plains of Kansas, Texas, North and South Dakota. So the wind speeds there have sort of created an amazing resource that could potentially be tapped into. The problem is it's a fairly remote location, and our current grid system would have to be overhauled so that we can transmit that power to the rest of the country. Wind power has an incredibly high net energy yield, an amazingly high efficiency. It can be used for multiple purposes. In other words, farmland can be used to also not only harness and harvest crops, but to harvest the wind. And so farmers can make an extra buck simply by leasing their land out to power companies. And it takes up no additional land space for them. There are some disadvantages associated with wind power. One that is noted often is the casualties or mortalities of migratory birds. It's estimated that 7 to 100,000 birds die each year from impacts to wind turbines. However, that sort of pales in comparison, right? If we were to talk about feral cats, which kill over 100 million birds every year. The other problem is that the wind isn't always constantly blowing. So backup systems are needed, whether that's with natural gas, or in some cases, they're developing some interesting ideas in terms of pumping pressurized air into caverns and aquifers, which can then be released when the wind isn't blowing to spin turbines. That's it for the wind, guys. We'll talk to you soon.